The things that we believe to be true can be so fluid and so ever changing that in my 47 years of living on this planet, I've gone through many different phases. Times when I believed one thing, times when I believed another, times when I stopped believing altogether, times when I thought that everything had a point, times when I thought life was pointless. I've been happy, I've been sad, I felt up, I felt down. I've gone back and forth like most people have. But when it comes to ideas, some of them stand the test of time. Things like I care about other people. I believe it's important to take care of each other. I believe that relationships are important, that love is an essential component of life, that we all are just trying to do our best, and that most people mean well. I have a certain belief system that has endured through time, but others that have changed and shifted. You might notice that, or not notice, that I'm cautious about talking about public issues, political issues, or social issues when they are very controversial. Things like, racism, sexism, the whole LGBTQ plus AA thing, everything has a place and a discussion and a time to talk about it. Everything down to propaganda and the war machine and what's been going on really in this world over my lifetime and probably yours as well. Regardless of how old you are, you know, you could be 100 years old watching this and it would still be relevant that people are fighting pointless wars, wasting time and money and lives, and putting the burden on the taxpayer to make sure that other people are always well fed. Not just fed, but gold toilets, the whole shebang. The reason I didn't like opulence, that I've never liked wealth. I've always despised wealth. Not because people are wealthy and I'm jealous, but because I know that that opulence and that arrogance to have a gold toilet, for example, shows that a person is so extremely insecure in who they truly are that they let money become who they are. And this isn't just for the wealthy or the ultra wealthy. This has become YouTubers. Many people making, tens of millions of dollars just rambling on about their life or doing shit I basically do, but hyping it up to the point where you can't distinguish between propaganda, you can't distinguish between a sales pitch, or whether somebody's just trying to sell you merchandise, or whether they have actually been contacted by a federal agency and convinced to be careful of what they talk about. If you think that this doesn't happen to famous celebrities and YouTubers and basically anybody who has a major public eye, you're deluding yourself if you don't think that the feds contact people and have discussions about what's appropriate to talk about. Recently, what's come into light about how the federal government has been contacting social media network sites like Twitter, Facebook, probably YouTube as well, and saying, well, we're going to help to make sure that only the truth gets through. If you haven't read 1984 by now, if you haven't read Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, if you haven't really seen how these things have been not just foreseen, but predicted to repeat over and over again until people get the fucking clue that you don't let other people choose what to believe for you. I know friends and family and acquaintances that really do believe that others have their best interest at heart. That somebody else needs to tell them what their diet is or what their intake of drugs should be. Even earlier, having a discussion with somebody about how they believe their doctor if they say to get the flu shot. I say, well, doctors have also recommended, made the Sackler family rich by recommending opiates to people who have a small broken arm or a pain issue, and giving them oxys for it. Those same doctors that gave people benzos for years just for feeling a little down, mother's little helper, as they called it. And I'm personally biased on this topic because I'm writing a book about the pharmaceutical industry that I've spent 3 years on and off, putting a little more into. And when COVID hit, I couldn't finish it. I couldn't even begin to imagine putting it out because it was right around early 2020 where I wanted to do a full podcast episode to read the whole book and even maybe make a physical copy. And that put a damper on that real quick. I said, until we see this out and see how this propaganda plays out, then I won't be able to finish it. And now that it's played out, I feel pretty vindicated in many of the beliefs and opinions and ideas that I have had over the past few years, that I've never trusted authority. People have just now become aware that the FDA might be corrupt, or the CDC might be compromised. Like, when I first started taking kratom around 2009, I saw how this was called, this horrible opioid like drug. And as it moved into, and look, I'm not getting into that debate whether or not it's good for any individual person, but it came down to freedom to choose a plant. It was the cannabis argument again, over and over. And I watched Scott Gottlieb, who was the FDA head at the time, completely run it into the ground and basically make it impossible for vendors of the herb to do business because they couldn't use credit card companies. They got them to back down. Fortunately, you can still use banks because in the cannabis industry, you can use a bank, but you can't use checks. You have to straight up bring in cash. That's the only way to do business in the legal cannabis industry because of federal laws, which have always held back states from doing what they want. And I have also mixed feelings on that because, yes, federal cannabis laws are ridiculous and they, it shouldn't be that a state has to, concede to the federal government. But at the same time, there are a lot of states that don't allow, women to have an abortion if they were, for extreme reasons even. And in that sense, people have said, well, sometimes the federal government does the right thing, and sometimes they don't, depending on my opinion. And this could go either way, you see. If you're anti-cannabis, pro-abortion, or if you're pro-cannabis, anti, it doesn't matter. Everybody has their own opinions, and we need to really understand each other. There's so much propaganda being shoved down our throats about what's right and what's wrong that I just stopped listening, As a self-professed liberal myself, I am disgusted by Democrats, the left. It's completely degraded into the worst thing I can possibly imagine. And it wasn't always this way. So for anyone in their 20s who says, wow, the left is horrible, just step back and look at the history. The left wasn't always that bad. The right and the left have switched places probably 5 times since the country was founded as to their values. When you realize the left and the right are really a coin toss, literal coin toss, and it doesn't matter, it's going to land one way or another, you've got to be able to see that. You've got to be able to understand that it doesn't matter who you vote for. It really doesn't. We're constantly told, vote, it's your voice. Sure, locally. But when it comes to federal laws, I know people say it starts locally. But when it comes down to the real fucking clincher, the presidency, regardless of who gets in office, even if they have the noblest intentions, the system will run them over. Not even a president has clearance to go into a military base. For example, I believe it was Kennedy, maybe? No. One of the presidents tried to go to Area 51 and wasn't allowed in. I think it might have been Hoover or FDR or something. But they wanted to go to a certain military base and see what was going on. I don't recall. And they weren't allowed in because they didn't have the proper clearance. This means for anybody who thinks the president's going to save the day, regardless of who it is, it's just bullshit. It's a figurehead. It's a picture of reality that doesn't exist. And I guess this could work for or against us. But in essence, what I'm saying is don't believe the bullshit you're fed. Always question the intention of the person giving it. Always question their sources. Always question, more than anything, their intentions. But ask yourself what this person has to gain by lying to you. And I guess that's one thing that I've always wanted to keep straight up, as I kind of joked about VPNs and ads, earlier. I've wrestled with the idea of what do I want out of my channel. I could talk about some of this shit and just make it controversial. Some people would totally hate me and others would start subscribing, but I could get millions of subscribers by talking about some stupid bullshit. And, when you start to see through the bullshit, you can't be a purveyor of said bullshit. And I won't be part of it, I'm going to have to stay true to myself. Even after 12 years of making YouTube videos, I've had my channel accused of being pretentious or boring or arrogant, whatever it might be. But not, maybe I'm rambling on certain videos, but I feel like that real discussion is lost. Totally. Everything is catered. Everything is perfected, Even YouTubers, no offense to anyone particular, even YouTubers who, have great videos where they're talking to the camera, but they have a bunch of background music. It just fucking throws me off. I can't handle it. I want to hear people talk. Real talk. I have a few channels that I watch on YouTube where people talk about real shit. Where they're not just sitting there fucking blowing smoke up each other's asses. Or there to just fight, Yeah, you're wrong. No, you're wrong. It's like I don't have the patience or the time to listen to people argue or fight unless there's a resolution and a handshake at the end and a point to it. What I've realized is that things are changing quick. And that's why I'm making this video. It's not going to be like it was over the past few years. People have really taken notice to the fact that the left and the right are completely full of shit. That, all these people gluing their hands and their feet to fucking streets and signs to protest oil, or, this whole eco whatever. These warriors, these protesters, or the ones who want to blame everybody on Twitter for what they say, some misconception about the fact that there actually are only two, real, the sex, you can be a male or a female, that's a controversial topic now. That if you even bring it up, you're a hater. It's bullshit. It's complete bullshit. I will not buy into conservative propaganda, and I will not buy into liberal propaganda. This whole thing about, everybody being a racist, and cultural appropriation. You can't have dreadlocks if you're white. I mean, I could unload forever on this, but the reason I don't isn't because I'm afraid of any pushback. It's not because I'm afraid that people get angry with me or cancel me, because I can't be canceled. I just have a YouTube channel. I'm not out there in the public sphere other than that. But I feel strongly that people really just want to be a victim today. They want to find and associate with some group that they can either be part of or defend or pretend to defend. And I just don't buy into it. I never did. I never will. And so, no offense to all the millennials out there who, really believe that everybody has to accept everyone's pronouns, or everyone has to accept, that they have white guilt and that they were born a racist, because of their white privilege. I call bullshit, complete bullshit on all of that. Regardless of how others feel, I have to be honest to how I truly feel inside. And maybe that's because I don't have any guilt about who I am. I struggle. My car breaks down. I go broke, like anyone else. Doesn't matter if I'm white or black or gay or anything. We're just people. And the left has made this such a topic, such a major issue, that of course it's going to come back on them. But not, to keep it balanced, the right has always catered to religion, and religion is bullshit too. Believing that Jesus is looking down on us all is complete nonsense. I'm sorry. I'm not here to offend anyone who's religious. If you can't accept the fact that I don't believe Jesus is a savior, but you do, then that's on you, not me. Because I have friends that are religious. I'm not opposed to that. I just say, I think it's bullshit. I think it's people just grasping for straws in a world and a life that we don't understand. And that, my friends, is my take on propaganda and bullshit. If you want to hear anything further on this topic, refer to George Carlin. He's like my fucking hero. That guy, as far as comedians go, he got a little hardcore at times, but it needed to happen. And until more people who are liberals, true liberals, speak up on these topics, then nothing will change. But I could go on and on about, I'm sure somebody will already be commenting, why aren't you talking shit about conservatives? Because conservatives have always been douchebags. No offense. But maybe offense if you're one of those douchebags. I don't really care if I offend or don't offend either party or group, because by putting yourself in a group, you've already made yourself a target. So, with that said, I guess I just probably offended a lot of people, and honestly don't give a shit, because that's just how life is. If you're offended by the truth, then you really just shouldn't look. That's all I got to say. Peace out.